Ja, dat was ik, sorry.
Kijk. Okay, we're live.
Hello,
We're
hello.
live. Oh,
Yeah.
are they not seeing us yet?
Nope. We're
This is
hidden.
gonna be the surprise when we take away the loading speaker animation. Who's gonna be there?
Not me.
Ooh.
So bad.
Should we start announcing these? Like we only announce them when they start. We don't really like a day in advance of like come join our live stream or something.
We would probably get a lot more people if we would announce it.
Yeah, we can. Just create the stream like a day before or something.
Oh, but there are already people in the comments, so...
Yeah, people are listening to us.
No.
So turn it off?
Yes.
Nah.
Oh, look at that animation. As there's no sound.
Boom.
I have to create it.
Boom. Hello.
There we are.
Yes. Welcome to yet another release party. Home Assistant Core 2021.2.0 for now.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
made
So
it.
last live stream, our numbers were a bit down because we had some competing content while they were trying to overthrow the U.S. government.
All right.
That was like last time, right? I came out of the live stream and I turned on like the TV. I was like, oh shit. So
Yeah, I was watching you guys, but I also had to watch CNN. I was multitasking.
nobody told us in the comments, like, why are you guys not like watching the news instead of just talking all this bullshit? Yeah. Oh well. So, a new release
And a new guest, by the way.
and a new guest. We should introduce
Introduce.
our guest, Marcel.
Yeah. Good evening,
Yes.
everyone.
Who are you? How are you involved with Home Assistant?
Well, I'm involved with the Z-Wave integration. About a year ago, I started working on the new Open Z-Wave integration. Mainly because I was a bit frustrated because of the lack of support of Z-Wave in Home Assistant, and it took a half an hour before the house went working again after a restart. So about a year ago, we started with the Open Z-Wave integration. I think with the same amount of power like we did with the Z-Wave ES, until we got stuck a bit. It's we got hit by some issues upstream, not being able to solve them, lack of knowledge of the C++ language, and that's where Z-Wave ES came out. And I think there was some frustration or something on the forums about it, and we said, hey, shall we have a look at Z-Wave ES? And we spoke with a few guys. Hey, maybe we could do this. Maybe we could pull this off. And in about 3 weeks, we created an entire new integration. So yeah, that's how I got involved. And in the meanwhile,
Right.
so yeah.
Yeah, that was early this year when we talked about starting with Z-Wave JS, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's February, so early this year was like a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like just a couple of weeks ago. It's amazing.
Yeah, I think the biggest speed here was that everybody was unfamiliar with Z-Wave protocol itself, and the Z-Wave, the setup was the same, right? We have a separate process, and we pipe all the data over, in this case, a WebSocket into Home Assistant.
Yeah,
So,
we learned a lot from the Open Z-Wave integration earlier. We knew
yeah.
what are command classes and the values it has, and so we had a flying start. That's
Yeah.
the advantage. Yeah.
Yeah, I think because going from Z-Wave to Open Z-Wave, we already did a lot of cleanup, right? And
Yep.
then that cleanup we could now just copy over. For the people that are just tuning in, we're talking about the new Z-Wave JS integration that landed in this release. It's a brand new Z-Wave integration that is based on a different driver than the last two Z-Wave integrations. That sounds pretty bad, but we have the first two were on Open Z-Wave 1.4, later 1.6, and this one is based on Z-Wave JS, a brand new driver written in TypeScript, runs in JavaScript, in Node, and it's working really good. And yeah, we have been actually collaborating with the Z-Wave JS organization because they have two projects themselves. They have the Node Z-Wave JS by Al Calzone, and then we have Z-Wave JS to MQTT, which is like an MQTT layer on top of that. But actually, it's more. It's not. It's just, it forwards it to MQTT. I guess that's how it started and got the name. But it also has a pretty nice admin panel, and it has now also the option to run our server that Home Assistant can integrate with. So, which is great because it means you have a lot of options to run the new server. So you can install. If you are like on Home Assistant itself, you actually don't have to do anything. New integration will install Z-Wave JS server for you in the background as an add-on. If you do not run Home Assistant or OS or Supervise, but you run in a container, you have to spin up your own Docker container, which there's a Docker container available for Z-Wave JS to MQTT. But you can also just, if you run a virtual environment, you can, and have Node on your computer, you can just npm install the Z-Wave JS server or Z-Wave JS to MQTT and just get it up and running fairly quick.
But we should document it a bit, I guess.
Yes,
Yes,
we
there are
should.
many.
I already saw
options.
some comments like, "Oh wow, I'm running core alone, and how do I run this thing?" So, I think we should write up a small install tutorial or something.
Yeah, and on Reddit as well. On Reddit, some questions about like what's the difference between the Z-Wave JS server and the Z-Wave JS to MQTT, right?
Yep.
But it's not just MQTT. It can do MQTT, but it doesn't have to.
Yeah.
And it's a bit like confusing. I get it, and it's new. Like everybody, like there's nobody to answer the questions yet, or there's no active knowledge yet. So, like it's 3 weeks, I think. Like I don't know. Like all these options are there. It's 3 weeks.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
amazing.
So
Yeah.
Yeah. So some people have asked us, why did we build this? Because Z-Wave JS to MQTT has support to use the Home Assistant MQTT discovery protocol. And the reason we decided not to do that is because the Home Assistant MQTT discovery protocol is yet another translation layer. So now we're taking the Z-Wave JS, which has its own representation of the data based on the Z-Wave protocol. We mangle it into the Home Assistant MQTT discovery protocol, and then that is again mapped into the Home Assistant entities, and that data gets lost, nuances get lost, and for example, it will be more difficult to deal with different command classes, quirks, and different gotchas. So it was not our preferred way of doing it, and it's actually this actually is for every integration that goes over MQTT, because for example, cleanup doesn't really exist in the MQTT land. It's up to the user. And that's super annoying because now the user will have to go manually delete entities, devices, and these kind of things.
Retaining. God.
We had a few issues with the Open Z-Wave.
No, but it's like
came in the wrong order and everything was messed up. So
if you
I
ever
still have
done,
nightmares.
if you ever worked with MQTT, you know that nightmare. You know what retaining, like what it does, and you know how to work around with it. That's like even the worst part. You know, like if you know how MQTT works and how retaining works, you know how to clean it yourself manually because like that's normal. It's just like weird to me, at least. I think it's weird. It's one of the things I do not like about MQTT myself.
Right. Should we? This is actually when we talk about technologies like this. Should we just explain what MQTT is? Should this be common knowledge? that it's like
Should just
messaging.
forget about it. Just use something else. Well,
No, but I mean, MQTT is a protocol developed by IBM, and it is pretty much just a sort of like, it's like an email server. So you can just send messages to topics. Topics can be have slashes in them to separate segments, and then you can just send messages to topics. You don't know who's going to read from it, and then pretty much if you send it and nobody's listening, it's discarded unless you do this magical retain. Then the last message stays there, and then any listener can just get this data. And it was developed by IBM because it's a very lightweight protocol, and so it's developed for sensors and getting data back to the hub, or like home system in this case. And I mean, it works great on the ESP32, for example, or 8266, or the small microcontrollers, because it's a very lightweight protocol. But for a lot of data, complicated data, as we have with Z-Wave, it wasn't the right choice.
I'm going to pop up some messages on the screen now and then, if you guys don't mind.
There's some nice comments coming in.
Yeah. I think this is a good question.
It's an excellent question. Bram, I'll give this one to you.
Well, we've actually introduced a migration wizard we built for the original Z-Wave integration to host it to the new Open Z-Wave integration. So also the 1.4 is the old one, the one that's deprecated today. And we're planning to build a migration tool also to the Z-Wave JS. That's in the pipeline. And then it will be really easy to move. It will just be clicking through in the UI, and all will be done for you. Today you will, so with Z-Wave, all the information about your devices is on the controller, on the stick. So it's not like you have to repair all your devices or anything, but you'll probably will have to rename all your devices and entities to match to the UI and your automations and that sort of stuff. That's all manual today. But other than that, it's quite straightforward and easy. But it will be more easy in the future. We will work on making it easier.
And I think also with the migration wizard, just as we've done this now, we've done it for OpenZ-Wave 1.4 to OpenZ-Wave 1.6. And so we know the challenges, we know how we can work around it, and we have even UI pieces already in place that we'll be able to reuse to get like parts from either 1.4 and 1.6 into Z-Wave JS. And not everything will be perfect because, for example, OpenZ-Wave 1.4 doesn't have notifications, or certain things are not supported, but most things we'll be able to migrate.
We'll do our best. There's some magic value mapping going on, but I think it's possible for most part.
Right. Yeah, the nice thing about Z-Wave compared to a Zigbee stick is that the Z-Wave actually stores the network on the stick. So if you plug in your Z-Wave stick into different Z-Wave controllers, different Z-Wave integrations, different Z-Wave add-ons, it will at least have the same node IDs and the same home ID. So there's some reference already for us to work with.
Yeah, it saves you a lot of pairing and pressing buttons on devices.
Right. Yeah, and I think if today you are using OpenZ-Wave 1.4 or you're using OpenZ-Wave 1.6 and it still works for you, I wouldn't change anything. I think OpenZ-Wave 1.4 might break eventually because as our Python requirements are going up and that library is no longer maintained, it might happen that that library will no longer be able to work with the newer versions of Python. So right now we're fine. A new Python is going to be released at the end of the year. It might break, it might not. That's each year kind of to figure out. If you are on OpenZ-Wave 1.6, everything remains working. You're good to go too. I mean, I expect new device support XMLs might be still arriving for it. But bug fixes on the home assistant side, not so much. Just because right now all the developers have moved over, right? There's no developers on OpenZ-Wave anymore. They're all on Z-Wave JS. And I mean, but if somebody stops by and fixes a bug, we of course accept it. It's not like we're gonna reject it or remove it for the sake of removing it.
So I think a lot of people will have the question, can we migrate and how can this work? And does it work is kind of the question, right? Does it work for me, I guess?
Yeah.
So as said, like the stick itself, your Z-Wave stick actually holds the pairing with the devices. So if you switch over to another integration, everything is still paired. You don't have to run it through your house like a madman, repairing everything. That's all taken care of. But I think the nice thing, if you're on the old Z-Wave or on Open Z-Wave and you want to try out Z-Wave GS without being destructive, what you can actually do is you can stop your previous Z-Wave network. If you go into the configuration screen and go to Z-Wave, the old Z-Wave, you can stop the connection. You can then set up the new Z-Wave ES and see if everything works and see if you like everything, and then start all the naming and stuff if everything is okay. But if you're like, okay, this is not what I wanted, then you delete Z-Wave ES integration again and start up your own network again, and everything will be back to normal. So that gives you a bit of a possibility to try a Z-Wave ES out without being destructive in your home and like having a bad day.
Yeah, and the same goes for the new add-on for Open Z-Wave. You can just stop that add-on, start a new add-on, and switch between them.
Before we continue, I see that one more developer of Z-Wave GS has joined us, Raman. So I'm going to add him to the stream.
Hey guys.
Hello.
Hey,
Hello.
Guys,
How are you?
We're good. We're good. We were just talking about Z-Wave, of course.
Hot topic. Been a fun month.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
you guys have been like going crazy. Like, oh.
I had a couple contributions, but I gotta say, Marcel was the real star of the integration, I think, this month. It's been really cool to see everything come together. And this is honestly the first time that I've really gotten involved in the Z-Wave integration. So I think the coolest thing about this new integration was how easy it was to jump in. I kind of looked at it and I thought maybe I would submit a PR here or there, but it was so easy to jump in that I could add support for different platforms that the team already hadn't worked on. So it was pretty cool.
it was great to see. We started something and everyone was getting on board too, so it was really great. It was exciting.
Somebody's asking who we are, so I'm going to enable the names. No, I messed up. How do I enable the names, Frank? Oh, yeah.
Press the label button.
The button.
There you go.
Those things are huge, by the way.
No, but that's the theme.
Oh,
Oh, that's
Yeah.
better.
There.
That's better. Yeah.
Good. Yeah, no, I think the new integration is really easy to develop for, but also the driver is actually relatively straightforward. I mean, you still need to parse Z-Wave bytes, right? You need to do that, but it's a bit more technical, but it's still pretty straightforward. And yeah, it's nicely documented, good tests, and very responsive author also. So Z-Wave GS also has a single author that's mainly driving it. But he's been really active working with our community, and we've been finding bugs, and he's been helping fixing it and stuff, and it's been working really well.
I have to say also the developer tools that we've added to make it easy to develop for Z-Wave GS have really helped a lot, especially the ability to dump the state of the control from Home Assistant. Just made it super easy. And I'm hoping that also make it easier for users to submit bug reports, because then we'll actually get to see what they're seeing.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's going to be really cool. Right? So for the people who haven't opened the Z-Wave GS config panel yet, which I don't blame you, it's been out just now, you can actually click on dump, and it will create a file with all the state that's currently in your Z-Wave GS controller. And this is like device descriptions, how the Z-Wave GS driver sees your network and the different devices. And then if you say something, hey, this doesn't work, we can actually load it up on our end and see, oh, this is misrepresented. We need to fix this. And what we can do but don't expose yet is that these dumps can actually also record over time. So for example, you could enable dump mode, start triggering your motion sensors if those don't work correctly, and those will be included in the dump. So we can start replaying what's happening on your network to debug and like make it even better.
Yeah, that's really great, because we can see actually what values are inside your node, and we can adjust our program for it, our code for it. So that's really great. We introduced it in OpenZWave, and now it's even better.
Yeah.
It really helps when some of your developers are users too. I see this at work all the time because I build tools for other teams, and oftentimes they come to us with better solutions for dev tools than we can come up with ourselves. So I think it's a similar type of issue here.
Yeah, I actually think we can even, it's a WebSocket, right? We could even make like debug websites, right? Because a website can just connect to it too. So it's going to be interesting to see if we can come up with some, I don't know, funny or interesting things. I mean,
that's
technically,
also cool about the solution we've chosen. You could actually have multiple programs listening to the same C-Wave network and use the same C-Wave network.
Yeah.
in the beginning of development, like I've been working on the ZWave.js stack, like all the different parts of that we built, but I don't have a Z-Wave stick at home here. And so what was happening, Marcel had actually exposed his Z-Wave stick over the Z-Wave server over the internet. And so I would control. Well, yeah,
that's kind of fun. At that time, the commands weren't introduced yet. So I told them I had my main mesh connected. So if you're going to start sending commands, you're going to upset my wife. And then it happened.
Yeah.
Some people have upgraded already. I asked in the chat, like, are you switching over? But like, you get a response that I've upgraded already. Of course.
But I think that the people that upgrade 2 hours after a release to the new Home Assistant, those are also the people eager to try out new stuff, I think.
Yeah, only the real test was when I connected my main mesh, because I have a lot of devices, and the test mesh had only a few devices, and then the real problems popped up. So I think last night POTUS was working a bit longer to fix the reconnection issue. I discovered last minute.
Well, this is not Z-Wave at fault, but at least your lights work.
Yeah, they just turned off. I don't know if you saw them. I have to wave my hand. So the motion sensor still works.
Nice.
Yeah.
No, it's great. Like, it looks good. I don't know. I don't have words. I really don't have words what you guys pulled off. Like, I've just watched it happen, really. And wow.
Yeah. Well, so much for a calm start to 2021.
It was a bit of a surprise. There was one forum post, and then the train started rolling. It was boom.
But I want to double down. I mean, I think with a good architecture, we were able to iterate quickly on this because of that. And it was really more a matter of time than trying to fight the integration, which is a lot more than I can say about some of the other integrations that I've worked on. So that's been great. I also, I joined a little late, so maybe you guys already talked about this a little bit, but one of the things I see across the forums and on Discord is this frustration with the fact that we're moving yet again to another new integration. And I just think it's funny that people think that we like doing this. Like, we like creating multiple and maintaining multiple integrations to solve the same problem. I think we would all agree that if we could stick with one and see it as a long-term solution, that's what we would all want. It's just we're buying a volunteer time.
That's why you're doing this. Like, we do it for the long term, not for the sake of creating it. Like, it's an awful lot of work. Although, like, you guys did it in 3 weeks, so.
Well,
I'm
easy.
The thing is that we didn't the core of Z-Wave.js is, of course, Z-Wave.js itself. We built things on top, right? That core already existed. And then, so Dominique, or Alcazone, as his GitHub handle is, he did so much work already on this to make it like work that we could just, use that and build on top. And actually, one of the things early on in the process that I did is that I reached out to my contacts at Silicon Labs. Silicon Labs is the company that owns Z-Wave. And I was like, listen up, this is the plan. We're going to move to Z-Wave.js because OpenZ-Wave is not working out right now. Initially, they were like, are you sure? Like, OpenZ-Wave is like 11 years old. Like, they know all the stuff. And there's a lot of things already solved. And then I explained it like, well, it's JavaScript. And so easy to find people. And then they were like, okay, that sounds better. And then I actually set up a call with Z-Wave.js and Silicon Labs. And Silicon Labs is actually helping out with answering questions that Dominique has, or other people of us as well. So they actually they have been in our Discord. They are on our Discord in the Dev Z-Wave channel as well. And they sent some dev boards to Dominique with the 700 series stick, so he can test the latest protocol of Z-Wave, the serial protocol. So they're also really happy what we're doing, and they also hope that Z-Wave.js is going to be maybe an open source driver that multiple projects can rally around. Right? There's the web things is a home automation hub written in JavaScript that could also start leveraging this. Z-Wave.js was actually written also as a for another home automation hub open source, and I forgot the name now.
Broker, IO Broker.
IO Broker. Yeah.
IO Broker, yes. So IO Broker. So Alcazone is actually a contributor to IO Broker, and then now it's just doing all the Z-Wave stuff, and he built it in such a perfect way that we are able to pull it in a great way. So props to that, because having multiple hubs all work on the same technology is really going to help extend the device database, improve stability, squash bugs, performance issues, and that's going to be great. When we were talking to Silicon Labs, the way they explained it to us is that Z-Wave as a protocol exists for a very long time, right? It started with this Danish company that had a remote and a light or something, or a switch, and they had to combine it. And in the end, they realized they had a good protocol, but they suck at making hardware, and they established this protocol, build it out, and there's just a lot of legacy stuff. Everything has been backwards compatible. So there's also rules now that are in the Z-Wave spec that are, this is how something should behave. But those rules weren't always there. So you have these older devices and they behave slightly different. And, people have these devices as well. And so we need to be able to deal with that. So there's going to be a bunch of quirks that are going to be part of the driver to deal with these older devices and kind of normalize that behavior. And all that stuff, I hope we can all get into Z-Wave.js. Yeah.
Out of curiosity, have you ever asked Silicon Labs why they haven't tried to do their own open source effort around Z-Wave?
Yeah, so I think I haven't asked it directly, but I do know some of the history. Is that it wasn't Silicon Labs has only recently acquired Z-Wave.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, it was Sigma Designs, and they've always, I don't know why they haven't thought about an open source driver, but a lot of the stuff was actually hidden, right? The Z-Wave spec has only been made public a year ago, like the full stack.
Mm.
Before that, OpenZ-Wave was reverse engineered. And so then they tried, at some point, they tried to make an open source variant called OpenZWave.com, I think, or publiczwave.com. But the problem is that when they started working on their new series chips, the 700 series, they actually moved away from allowing vendors to implement the serial protocol. Instead, they said IP is the future, and they made it's called a zip gateway, a Z-Wave IP gateway. And every node in your network will get an IP address. You talk to the IP addresses from your hub, like Home Assistant would just see 50 IP addresses. And that we would talk to that. And so when they made the public version, they actually said, well, here's code to talk to this IP address Z-Wave network. But the problem is that if every Z-Wave device in your network gets its own IP address, and you have 60 devices in your network, all of a sudden, boom, you have 60 IP addresses. So a lot of they realized that this is not working. So a lot of vendors were actually creating like local networks isolated where the zip gateway would run with its own DHCP server and then kind of built an API on top. And all of a sudden also you needed like a Linux stack because you had like IP and all that stuff. And so that's kind of now, it seems that they're kind of going back again. It seems that they, the actual open, there's still the zip gateway, but I think that it looks like they might drop that requirement in the future. So right now, Z-Wave.js, we work with the 500 serial protocol, which is pretty much every available stick that you can get right now. But the 700 serial sticks are coming. AOTech already is selling one, or at least we have one. They sent us one at least that we've been playing with, and that's it's coming. But in short, they were going the wrong direction and they had something open, but it didn't work. So,
Fair enough.
Yeah, but now the Z-Wave Alliance has been feeling the heat of chip, right? Because they feel like, well, it looks like every company is behind chip, and so Z-Wave is trying to establish itself as well. So they've actually one of the moves that they recently did as the alliance, and this is very interesting, is that previously you were not allowed to buy Z-Wave chips if you want to put them in your devices unless you had a certified Z-Wave device. And you could only buy up to 100 chips if you didn't have a certification number. But now they've dropped that. So now it will be very much possible that, for example, in China, where they're very good at making hardware, they're starting to buy a lot of Z-Wave chips and just putting it in devices and actually start flooding the market with cheap Z-Wave sensors or USB sticks and stuff like they're doing with Zigbee 3.0. So I think that is actually a pretty good move. So we're going to see, and in the end, Silicon Labs owns Z-Wave now, and Silicon Labs, they care about one thing: selling chips, right? That's what they do. So I think Silicon Labs make 80% of all the Zigbee chips used in the world already, something like this. I mean, they're really big, right? So for them to just open it up and try to get more people to use Z-Wave, that only makes sense. So yeah, I hope we can see some more cheaper devices.
Right, that's exactly what I wanted to say. Like, let's hope it becomes a bit cheaper, because Z-Wave is actually not that bad. Like, it's actually pretty darn good.
Yeah.
If used correctly, by the way, that's a big footnote. But it is a beautiful protocol on its own, and I wish it was a little bit more like affordable, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that's, if you look at the AOTech stuff, where it's like 60 euros for a multi-sensor, or yeah.
So to drop in a question of somebody right here that is like related to all of this, probably is like now we're moving. Like, hey, I got this nice device and it doesn't show up. What to do?
It depends where it shows up as unknown. If it shows up as unknown in Home Assistant, we might have to expand our discovery scheme for all devices. But if it isn't recognized at all, it should be expanded in the Z-Wave JS driver. So it's a bit. I think this particular version is the one with which is not following specs 100%. So this could be the one that will be recognized as a light dimmer. So I'm not entirely sure, but that happens.
I think he's familiar with it, because his follow-up question is there a way to import XML configuration from vendors into Z-Wave JS?
Yeah.
So he's probably familiar with it. I know this manufacturer specifically he asks for has published its XML configurations, but they are not compatible with Z-Wave JS, right?
Yes. Alcazone has created an importer, so he imports from all known other sources, including OpenZWave and OpenHAB. He imports the configurations into ZWave.js, but he doesn't have the actual permission to include all the configuration files from OpenZWave. So he kind of does it on request. He asked permission by Fishwaldo to import them all. And I think it's fair. I think it's fair. He waits for that permission. But it's pretty easy to include additional device configurations. And also, the ZWave.js driver has very good documentation about that. So maybe you could share the link to the documentation, because it's pretty extensive about it.
Right. Already, so documentation. That's it.
We should make sure we link to the ZWave.js documentation from our documentation.
Yeah.
But I also think we should, I don't know if we should put it on the developer documentation and not the user documentation, because I want to avoid that our users, like we have a lot of users, right? And we're adopting this open source project. And, you know, we did this with permission, right? Alcazone knows, but whenever we, you know, we use an open source project like this, it will send a lot of users that will start using ZWave.js, which also means a lot of bugs will pop up, especially now, because all of a sudden everybody is new to this. So I think actually we need to make sure that we don't just, you know, when we link it, let's maybe do it in our developer docs. Because one of the things actually that happened with OpenZWave is that, you know, Fishwaldo posted this on the forum. So, and it's also a link from the release notes, is that Fishwaldo, who was the main developer, or is the main developer on OpenZWave, and he's done a great job over the years. But what happened is that, you know, people were running into bugs and they felt entitled that they wanted to fix, and he wasn't fixing them fast enough. And, you know, he explains in the forums that like some stuff happened in his life, so he was away for a couple of months from open source. But, you know, the people just kept harassing him until like he just was like, what am I even doing here? Why am I doing this? And then he was like, I'm not gonna like publicly commit to working anything OpenZWave. I will work on it as I wish, like to scratch my own itch, but I will not, you know, work with the home system community or like try to fix all the bugs they need. I'll just fix the bugs I need fixed. And so this is, I mean, it's sad, right? Like this is not the first time this happens in open source, and it will sadly also not be the last. For the people watching, it's like, please be nice when you do bug reports and don't expect report for free or like.
It doesn't make sense even. Like if you go somewhere, you want people to do something for you, like just because like, then go to them and ask them nicely, right? And it's not like you have to cuddle somebody or like have to like suck up or something. Just be like a normal, respectful person. I don't get that. I've been, well, you guys know I've been targeted as well lately, and it's just so, it just sucks out all of the energy out of your body in just a couple of seconds, and there's really no reason to do so. And it's sad to see that happen to Fishwaldo as well, as he wrote in his post on the forums, which is linked from the release post in case you guys want to see it. But it's nobody deserves that, and he certainly didn't. He had 11 years of really, really good work, hard work, honest work, and work open source and for free for you to use. And there are people there that just like, I don't know, I don't get it.
I have to say I've been pretty lucky in my experiences working with the Home Assistant community. I haven't really faced a lot of those challenges, but I can only imagine how demoralizing it is being in that spot. I mean, you know, I've got a full-time job. I joined late because I was in another meeting. I do this because I enjoy it. It's fun, and because if I'm going to fix a problem or solve a problem myself, it would be, if I can benefit other people, that's great. But I think I can see a point where it could stop being fun, and it's just unfortunate that it came to that point for Fishwaldo. I think the other thing that I wanted to mention is, and I think it's come up a couple times, but I want to be very explicit about it. We're so used to having devices that if they have an Ethernet port or if they have a Wi-Fi card, they just connect to the network and they work. And Z-Wave is not like that. It's complex. It's very reliant on the manufacturer of the device to implement the protocol correctly. So part of the reason why we can't just build a Z-Wave integration and it magically works for everything is because there are so many edge cases to consider. So I think it's just worth mentioning that even though it feels like it should be simpler than it is, it's not. And that's why we'll keep chasing these bugs and keep adding support for these special one-off devices, but it's probably never going to go away as a problem.
Applause, right?
Applause.
But I cannot, that was just in general for everybody. For you guys, you're doing it. For Fishwaldo, come on.
Right.
Yeah.
Just to circle back to InnoValley, the question about InnoValley fan, because I'm in one of the Z-Wave developers wrote that they actually, InnoValley provides their own open Z-Wave XML config files, and they're actually working on the JavaScript versions for that. So they're gonna help with that. So it's good.
Sorry guys, I gotta complain. I had to fix it.
Yeah, I think more vendors, we always get vendors reach out to Home Assistant hey, I got this device, can I send you one and we can test it and then put on your website that it works, or here's a controller. And I mean, at the end of the day, we just want everybody to use the same driver so that it works with ZWave.js, boom, you now support every open source home automation hub with Z-Wave. So I hope that that's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's also a collaborative effort, right? The more people use it and the more people start fixing things, and the better it becomes, right?
Yeah, which is more likely, with the JavaScript language, TypeScript. No offense to the C++ language, but it's kind of hard to understand for most people, especially new learners. And JavaScript is more widely documented, it's more popular. So I expect, and I already see it on the contribution side, that people will jump in faster and create an additional command clause or something. So I suspect that is going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, with Home Assistant, I think one of the challenges we usually face is that open source is seen as this kind of fringe, these are a bunch of hippies that they hate society and rules and whatever, and they just make their own code in a corner.
Have weird hats and stuff.
Have weird hats, right? But the truth is no, we're building a home automation hub, and we're just as good, if not better, than many commercial options out there. And we need to make sure that people start taking this more seriously. So I'm also talking with Silicon Labs to join the Z-Wave Alliance. So we can go to their meetings, in the beginning virtually, later I hope in person again, to also talk about Home Assistant. What is it that we do and why do we do it? And please take us serious and let's all work on ZWave.js, for example. I think that will be great.
Yeah.
Right. Any more Z-Wave thing? I mean, it's been 45 minutes. It's just Z-Wave.
Well, I had a different question.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Frank. I'll come in.
No, I was just summing it up. We have now ZWave.js, right? And that's what we're all focusing on and what we all going into, as developers and Home Assistant as project. We believe that this would be now would be the path forward, because considering all the other options that are there. And if you look at the old Z-Wave integration, the Open Z-Wave 1.4 base that is now deprecated as of today, you don't have to rush. Don't be scared. It will be around for a while. We're not going in and delete all the stuff and you're without lights, so take it easy. And if you're on Open Z-Wave, the beta, well, that thing will be around as well for a minute, but you might, in both cases, consider moving to Z-Wave.js over time. But take it slow, take your time, and don't
It will
feel
stay
rushed.
working.
Yeah,
Yes.
we will make it easier to migrate in the future. So
Yeah.
if
As
you're
well.
just scared, just wait around for the migration tools,
Yeah.
and then it will be a lot easier.
One of the nice things about having the different integrations is if you want to, you can still use OpenZWave, for example, as your main integration, but you can shut it down temporarily and try Z-Wave.js just to see, how well it's working. It's really easy to kind of switch back and forth because, especially with OpenZWave and Z-Wave.js, because the driver is external. So, I think if people have the time, I would encourage people to give it a shot. It's really easy to leave your existing configuration as is and move back to it after you've tested it a little bit. It would also help us if you test it out and you see some devices that aren't supported, open an issue so that we can take a look and we can see what we can do.
Yeah,
Right.
maybe write a small note about this, because Frank already told it, and I saw some comments on the Discord and on the forums too, with the same questions. So we should write something about this. It's very, very, very easy to just test it and then revert back.
I think on the forums, Pedro actually
Yeah.
started a topic on it, like split off from the release notes topic. But there are some instructions on how you can do that. So if you're looking for it right now, go to the forums. Yep.
Right. Okay, let's take a random question from the audience. Any plans for multi-home systems? No. It's no. It's too small of a use case, and I think we don't have enough developers with multiple homes either. So that also doesn't help.
We need developers with multiple homes, which is
If you buy me a second home, I might be interested in looking at it.
Right.
I think there are a couple of custom components available on Hacks that try to solve this problem. I have no experience myself with them, but there are people who have tried to solve this problem in some way.
Yeah, there is a remote home assistant custom component that it was initially offered as a contribution to Home Assistant, but I didn't agree with the architecture. I wanted it to be flipped around. So I think that architecture has that the main instance has to know about all the client instances that want to be replicated towards. And I think it should be the other way around, where all the replicas need to know where to replicate from. And that kind of that was probably too much of a jump. And so the contribution moved to Hacks, and that's where it lives now.
I think if you really want to do it, like the best option you have is just like use MQTT and be selective of what you want to throw over the line.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work, but that's probably the best that you can do.
I mean, two Home Assistant instances can listen to the same MQTT entities. It will just work. Yeah.
So is there anything else in this release that you guys really loved and liked, like to switch up the topic a bit?
There was other stuff in the release?
Yeah.
Well, I think
everyone is busy upgrading their home.
No, one of the things that I liked that was new in this release is that is no longer there, right? So the auto-generated Lovelace dashboard will no longer create badges, at all. And anyone that has used Home Assistant with more than, say, 2 or 3 integrations knows what I'm talking about. It's like 2 or 3 or 4 rows of just badges and badges and badges. It used to be really bad because the mobile app was also shown as badges, and so then it became pretty much everybody was moving away from the generated Lovelace dashboard. And the goal of the auto-generated Lovelace dashboard is, of course, that it's good enough for people that don't want to manage their UI. And with the badges, we were even failing that goal.
Do you have that screenshot available?
The one from the release notes? I have the release notes.
Yeah, the release notes is like minified, but you had you sent me the big one.
I can pull it up. Yep.
This has been on our mind for a while. I don't know why we never did it because it was really small change.
It was really easy.
Yeah, there was this Dutch magazine, PC Active, and they just published like a home automation special, which included like 8 pages on Home Assistant, like 4 pages how to install, set up, configure, and 4 pages how to automate and make your Lovelace dashboards. And then they had like a huge screenshot with all those badges, and it was something like, yeah, when you start using Home Assistant, the default user interface will get messy really fast. And I was like, okay, this is too much.
This is it. It has to go now.
Oh yeah, Bram.
And this is not as worse as that was shown.
This
in the
was
magazine.
someone trying the new C-Wave integration, and this is what popped up out of his C-Wave network.
But the one in the magazine was even worse. Like that was like almost like a full page of badges. Like, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah,
I can check if I can find that one.
Was that the magazine that Paulus tweeted out?
No, there was a different screenshot of somebody else that, but it was all bad. We're having some really great plans for auto-generated Lovelace, and the thing that Zach was working on it on and off. I don't know what the status is right now, but the idea is that we're gonna have like the auto generation of a dashboard is based around like a piece of code. And so we're going to encapsulate this piece of code, like the default one, and we're going to call it strategy. And so you can have strategies to generate Lovelace dashboards based on your current entities and devices, etc. And so instead of having one hard-coded strategy, we're going to allow custom card developers or custom Lovelace developers to create their own strategies. Because a lot of the things that we see, for example, Dwayne's dashboard or other popular Lovelace dashboards, is that it's a lot of repetitive. Like if you just have a strategy, you could just create and like have one piece of code create all the custom cards for you, and so that would be really great. But that's somewhere in the pipeline, I guess.
Oh, the foundation is there, right?
Yeah, I think the foundation is already there. Yeah.
Bram is trying to put out the magazine, I think.
Yeah, I had it, but it crashed or something.
I have it here on my desk somewhere.
It was so like, it was a great article, but that was just like,
I
don't know. And it wasn't a small screenshot like in a corner. It was just like almost full page blown. Like this is how it looks. Like no, for real.
I have it here.
Yeah. Look at that.
Yeah, it's nice that you're in a magazine, but you don't want to be in it. And the comment is also nice. The Home Assistant, Home Assistant by default shows all entities in the dashboard, which get messy quickly.
Yeah. Oops. Yeah. Oh, this is actually my photo you're showing now.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had the magazine.
No, that's true.
I tried to buy the magazine, but all stores are closed, so I couldn't get it.
Yeah. Fair. I didn't even think of that. Yeah. No, my father is still a member of this. It's the Holland Computer Club, the HCC, I guess in English. Yeah, it used to be the thing for computers back in the days in the Netherlands.
They had like this big, huge expos and stuff in the past. Like it was the thing back in the day for the Netherlands. Like they even had like the club. They had multiple like clubs within the club for each like interest you had.
I think they still have.
Huge. They still have. I don't know. I was surprised it even still existed. Actually.
I think all those things still exist, like the Power Unlimited and stuff.
Holy crap.
Oh man, good old days.
So there are four
I'm
Dutch
gonna-
guys here right
Yeah.
now. So that's we get it, right? Sorry, Ramon. But
I'm
like,
gonna remove these
Okay.
normal badges. Right. So what else is new? That's really cool.
So I saw some questions about the Dhcp discovery feature that got
Yeah.
introduced.
Oh yeah.
I
It's
don't know a lot about it.
okay. It's really cool. So okay, everything we do is really cool, but this one is like especially cool. So what's happening is that if Home Assistant runs as root, and so that happens in the container and it runs on Home Assistant OS, like it has the root access to the network, we can start subscribing to DHCP requests. So whenever there is an device that gets on your Wi-Fi, like for example, your Tesla car arrives at home, it tries to connect to your home Wi-Fi, it will make a request, get me an IP address. And we now intercept those messages and we read out those messages and we're like, oh, this is a Tesla car that requests an IP address. We know Tesla cars. And so then we suggest, oh, does the user already have Tesla set up? If not, we will suggest to them, hey, please set up Tesla. Because hey, we discovered a Tesla on your network.
Yeah,
then-
except Tesla is broken. That's the worst example ever. Yeah. It's like my queue or something. But
Right.
but yeah, it basically it's listening to the scream and shout out of a device that is entering your network,
Yeah.
and we can recognize the device from it.
And
there
then
there are a bunch that edited this release. Like, not only was it built, but also a lot of integration actually added support for it. Like, yeah, I can do this.
Yeah. And we actually added, and so I think there was a PR. I'm not sure if it got into this release, but there was a contribution to also integrate this with Ubiquiti Unify routers. So if you have a Ubiquiti Unify router and you integrate it into Home Assistant, it will actually check all the MAC addresses of the devices that are currently having an IP address and map it against our internal database to see if there's any device that we support.
That's pretty cool.
Yes, it's not only Unify. I think I saw another one, but yeah, there's another way around.
Yeah. So the way it actually works is that as a vendor, when you create a network interface, you need to have a unique MAC address. And so different vendors will have different MAC address ranges, like prefixes, like the first 6 characters of a MAC address for example, for Tesla or like Google phones or whatever. And so that way we can distinguish like which vendor it is.
Robert just confirmed that indeed it works on Unify. So that's
Nice.
cool. I think it's really, really, really cool feature. Like a totally different thing of discovery. Like,
yeah. The only downside of it is that, for example, your Tesla car, if it is just at home, it's not getting a new IP address, I think. Right? Or it's not. Well, I guess it has to renew the lease. So it depends on your configuration of your home network. So it might be it takes like an hour, maybe, or 2, depending on the lease time, and then we find more stuff. Yeah.
So as I'm looking through, it's like Somfy has added it, Axis Cameras added it, Squeezebox, Tone, which is Dutch, which I added. Like, I wanted to jump on the wagon as well. Mqtt routers actually are readout 2. So that's like something I see really quick now, scanning over that list. Like, that's a good start.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to have such a good database in Home Assistant on how to detect things, right? We have SSDP, or like Universal Plug and Play discovery. We have MDNS/ZeroConf discovery, and now we have DHCP discovery. And then we also have HomeKit discovery. So HomeKit sits on top of MDNS, and we can actually read out the HomeKit models, which is also really cool. Yeah. So what else was this release?
Python Python
Oh.
3.7.
Yeah.
It's gone. And I like it. I think that
Some people are now.
I know. If you use a Python virtual environment and you have to maintain your own Python installation, this is a pain, right? You have to create a new virtual environment. I mean, it's not a pain if you work with Python every day, but if you don't, it's going to be a pain. If you are using Home Assistant in a Docker container or using Supervised or Home Assistant OS, it's taken care of, right? Like the Home Assistant, we will make sure Python gets upgraded inside the container. That's the whole the idea behind containers is, of course, that like all the dependencies are included. But for developers, it's great because Python 3.7 had to be supported. So it meant that even though Python 3.10 is already publishing alphas, we cannot use any of those new features. We have to wait 2 years till like the new Python version comes out before we can stop using the old one. So right now, we can finally start using Python 3.8 features because that's now the lowest supported Python version.
The Walrus Operator.
Oh yeah, that was that one, huh?
I'm just still waiting for the first one to spot, but I haven't seen one yet in the Home Assistant code base.
There were definitely places where I felt like this could have used the Walrus Operator. So for the people that are not aware, there was this new operator added to Python where it is a check plus an assignment at the same time. So you can say if variable A, Walrus Operator B, or like, no, what is it? If it's truthy or something? Actually, I don't really know.
It doesn't matter. It's not even truthy. It just gets assigned.
You can do the assignment and the check in one. So you assign it and at the same time check it.
Expression and assignment in one.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like this is the big thing that got like Python all like stirred up, right? The whole Guido thing a couple of years ago.
Yeah, well, the leadership.
Yeah. So that it was a big thing, but like every other programmer in every other language is watching this. Like, you could not do that in Python. Like I don't know, but I'm still waiting for the first one to arrive. It's not like I don't know. It's weird. I can see some use, but in general, I don't think Python people are used to it yet.
No, tomorrow we're gonna look through the code and find some Walrus.
Name the PR Walrus, please.
I've written plenty of code that can be replaced with walruses. So if you want, I can submit a PR tonight.
Well, looking forward to it.
Good.
No, it's just those things, right? And they're also in the upcoming Pythons, like Python 3.9 and 3.10 even. Like there are some really great things for us in there. But if we stick with all the versions, we will never move forward to that path. And also, it's hard to like keep compatibility up, especially with Python 3.10, for example, that's coming up.
Python 3.10 is going to be a real pain.
Yes.
Because it's deprecating the beginnings of async IO. So that's a lot of old
Python is already deprecating some stuff, right?
Well, yeah, but 3.10 is going to be removed.
Yeah.
So already right now, if you see the warnings in our test suite, it's pretty intense.
You can see some tests happening between all the warnings now and then.
That's true. Bram, you want to talk about the new text-to-speech config?
Yeah, sure. So in Home Assistant Cloud, we have a very, very nice text-to-speech for a while now. And some people have found it, but it has been hidden quite well. It was just a surface.
Not on purpose.
Not on purpose, but we implemented that and we never really gave it the love it deserved.
Well, we built things because it's cool, but we're not so good at marketing. That's probably the issue.
So yeah, it's really nice, and we even upgraded it. It uses even better voices now. We've added more languages, but there was no way to set a default language for the surface. So every time you wanted to say something in a language other than English, you would have to send the language with the service call. And that gets messy pretty quickly. And if you want to do it from a media player card in the front end, that's not even possible. So we now added the ability to set a default language and a default gender. And we, of course, added the UI for that to set it in the cloud configuration panel. And as extra cool bonus, we added a try button. So then you can just in your browser type a text and press play, and it will just speak the text you entered right out of your browser or any media player in your house, just to test it and try it. So that's really cool.
Can we get it on screen? Can we do a demo? Is that possible? Like, you're the king of live demos, Bram.
No.
Well, you got to be careful because your I don't know if the UI if your cloud URL is right there.
Oh, right.
I can do it in my local host, my dev environment.
No, I can. Well, yeah, okay, do it.
That's true. But it's just like how it sounds. Like, it's like really good. If you haven't tested and seen it yet.
Is this the correct one? Yes, I think it is. Yeah. So this is the configuration, so I can pick a language. We have a lot of languages. And for some languages, not all, we have male and female. And if I press try, we get a sample text here. Is audio also shared, by the way?
We're gonna find out.
Okay.
Just press play.
Hello, Bram. You can play any text on any supported media player.
I'm not sure if you hear that through my phone or.
Yeah, that worked perfectly.
Cool.
Can you do Irish or something? Like show the accent?
Yeah, sure.
That's the cool thing about this, right? Like it really sounds.
So we only have a female for Irish. And I like the Irish.
You can play any text on any supported media player.
Oh.
Yeah.
So what's actually really cool about this is that the text-to-speech has gotten really good in recent years because we're using neural network-powered voice engines. So this is not like coded like, oh, if you see these letters, this is how it has to be pronounced. Instead, they just feed a lot of samples into like a computer, and it knows how to speak. And this is all powered by Azure in the background. And so, we rely on Microsoft to provide this for Home Assistant Cloud users. And so these languages sound really, really good.
So this is the last one, Australian.
Hello, Bram. You can play any text on any supported media player.
Player.
Yeah.
Player.
You can actually, you can change the text, right? So you can. Yeah. I've been using it to mess with my son because he likes talking to Google. But now all of a sudden, Google started initiating the conversation, and that scared him.
Hello, Home Assistant homies.
Liars.
So we're going to bring this text-to-speech try dialogue to the. Oh, bye, Bram.
Wrong button.
Yeah. We're going to bring this dialogue to the other text-to-speech services as well. So because we made this config setting, we quickly whipped up this dialogue, but it's so cool because you can not only pick browser, you can pick any media player. So it's really like a voice remote for any player in your house. So it's going to be really cool. Welcome back, Bram.
Yeah, sorry, pressed the wrong button. Leave studio and stop screen sharing is next to each other.
But yeah, so it's going to be this dialogue. We'll tweak it further to make it more useful for everybody, even if you're not a cloud subscriber. So you can your own text to speech. The other providers that you have, you can also use it.
I'm just blown away every time when I hear the thing speak. Like if you use like the Google translate kind of thing that's the default, right? And compared to what comes out of this Azure network neural thing, that's just like night and day.
Yeah, no, it's really good.
That's night and day.
What else is in the release?
Yeah, I'm a fan of a little feature. I think it's subtle but still useful. Like the input select has now a possibility to jump to the first or the last option using a service call in your automations, or cycle through the options. Like if you have like a list of scenes in an input select, then you could like assign a button that just goes from scene to scene. I think that is pretty little thing, just a little neat thing that is added.
Cool. It's one of those things, like once they get added, you're like, why haven't we, like, I know, it seems so relatively straightforward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and Tesmoda came out of beta.
It's true. And the maintainer of Tesmoda works for Nabukasa now. No, the maintainer of Tesmoda integration, I have to say, not Tesmoda, the firmware. Yeah, so the main Eric is now he maintains the Tesmoda integration, the Chromecast integration, and the Mqtt integration. And he started last Monday at working for Nabukasa, working full time, and so he's gonna spend most of his time on Home System Core because that's his specialty. And through his work on Mqtt, he always pushes the boundaries of every feature. You need to find, Mqtt always exposes all the edge cases. So I think he will just continue doing that work. That's going to be really great.
Yep. Some new selectors still in blueprints. That's nice. The text inputs and the YAML inputs, multi-line inputs. I think that's helpful. That's really nice.
Yeah, we'll get selects in the next release.
Oh, that's going to be nice too.
That would be nice. Definitely like a multiple select that you can select behavior or something.
Still single select now, but
okay.
Now we're trying to keep the selectors. Oh, yeah.
I was just going to say I got to drop off. Thanks for having me on. Congrats on a good release. Also, I know I mentioned Marcel for the Z-Wave.js integration, but there were a lot of other people too. So I apologize for anybody whose name I forgot at the beginning of the call. Anyway, talk to you guys later.
Yes.
See you later, man.
Thanks. Bye.
If there are no more questions for the Z-Wave ES integration, I will drop off too. But I don't know if there are any questions in the comments.
So last chance, guys. Got a question for one of the Z-Wave Meisters self?
Yeah. We have to wait like 30 seconds for this the stream to go through and the comments to come back in. I'll talk in the meanwhile. Oh, yeah.
The Discord channel is very active, so every one of us is very closely watching the Discord channel. So we already fixed some last-minute stuff yesterday, which came through on the Discord channel. Even today, there was a very small change, which bumped the version of the server again. Sorry, Frank.
Today?
Yeah.
It's going out to the next patch release.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not shipped yet.
Yeah, there was one word. It was a PR of one word. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's okay. I'm okay with it. Like.
Well, we made it now so that the current release of Home Assistant will issue a warning if the server is not the right version, even if the server is a newer version, because we didn't do a full check of like it's the SAMver, like a major version. So this is going to trigger a warning, but it will be fine. It's just on connect, and then fix it.
Somebody says Z-Wave, yes. No thermostat support? Yes, there is.
Yeah.
It's actually the thing I've been using. Yes, there is.
There are like 10 different implementations of the climate. So one thermostat is not the other one. So Even today, maybe that small one-word change of today was for thermostats. So if the new add-on hits the store, that one will be fixed.
Yeah. And if it doesn't work, make a dump and attach it to a log and create an issue, and then we can
report the issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's important. And it's now easier, by the way.
Right. If you don't know how to make a dump, you can go to the integrations page, click the configure button on the Z-Wave.js card, and then there it should be.
Yeah. I see one question about polling. Z-Wave doesn't support natively the polling, so some older devices need to be polled, asked what their last status is. We're going to implement a service call in Home Assistant so you can pull the device yourself. So you can ask the device, hey, go get your latest values, please. Which is different than OpenZ-Wave, which had a native implementation of polling. You could just set up, pull it every 10 seconds or something, but it's actually pretty bad to pull all devices.
Yeah. We learned.
It will slow down your network. So imagine you can do an automation in Home Assistant. If your motion sensor detects you're in the room, you pull the specific dimmers in that room. So it brings down the polling to a minimum. It's just an example. Something to work with.
Yeah. I mean, we can always explore creating our own polling mechanism in like the config panel or something. But as both Frank and Marcel said, polling is bad. Like Z-Wave is not meant for polling, and so you will start noticing random issues at different things. So it will drain batteries of devices and all that stuff. So don't poll.
No, don't poll. No.
Yep. Okay, yeah. Set config parameters. I've seen that one before.
Yeah, it will be in the same one. We're working on service call that didn't make it in this release. And service call is what you can set Z-Wave set config parameter. It was called like that in the old Z-Wave integration. But that didn't make it into this release. So it will be in the next.
If you run Z-Wave to MQTT, you can set those things, right?
Yeah. That's probably a good one to explain because that's really missed in all the forum topics I see. Nobody, but why I need to run MQTT because it was a native WebSocket connection. Yes, it's Z-Wave TS to MQTT, but you can use it only for the control panel.
Yeah.
That's probably nice to explain. You can use the control panel to set configuration parameters and just leave the MQTT section off. Just leave it off.
Yeah. Right. They should really change the name. Right? It's a config panel, it's an MQTT exporter, and a WebSocket exporter.
It should be something like a bridge or gateway or something, or just control panel.
Something like that.
Yeah. The name is a bit confusing.
Yeah.
Oh, that remembers me of the old Z-Wave control panel.
An open Z-Wave.
Yeah,
with the VNC connection.
No, even older, like before, like way back then, like the thing that you needed to start. It first shut down Home Assistant so you could start it up.
Oh yeah.
The Z-Wave control panel, that thing. God.
Yeah. Took half an hour to shut the first one down, then took half an hour to start the other one again.
But at least you
could change one parameter,
Yeah, or the name. And so it would show up nicely in Home Assistant because we couldn't rename entities at the time yet.
Yeah. That was nice. Back in the day. When Zigbee was not existing and all there was Z-Wave.
Oh, look at this.
Yeah.
Time to move, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, those were the days.
Another cool thing. So, I don't know. Is this everything about Z-Wave? Or not?
I think so.
I think so. So one of the features that has been on Home Assistant since the very, very start, that very, very, very few people know about, is called light profiles. And so you can actually create a CSV file, a comma separated file of a light profile name, an X and a Y value, and now I think also H and S value. Like you can specify color, you can specify the brightness. And then when you turn on a light, you can pass in the profile and it will load this profile from this text file and it will apply this to the lights. And that way you will be able to, you don't always have to pass in your favorite settings. So for example, if you want a certain light to be dimmed, or maybe it's evening or it's midnight and you detect motion, it has to be like super like little light, less brightness, then you can set it in a light profile, so you can easily apply it to multiple lights. You don't have to, like, a scene is always tied to one light. You could create one profile you apply to multiple lights. And over time, this feature, which it is documented on the light integration, but nobody ever looks at it. So don't feel bad if you don't know about it. But over time, the new profiles got added, which were default profiles. So default profiles were added to calls. If you did like enabled one profile, it would fall back to this profile for more data. But it was not applied by default if you did not specify a profile. So that has changed this release, which is really cool. So you can now specify a default profile for lights, specific lights, and if those get turned on via Home Assistant, they will use that profile, and so those settings will be set on the turn on call.
So I really don't know this feature. I'm honestly, I know it exists. I have no clue how it works. I know the documentation exists. I've skimmed it once. I didn't understand it. So it's like, it's a CSV file on your disk, right?
Yeah.
And it has like in a config folder, and it has like a row per profile with all kinds of settings for lights. So basically, are portable scenes or something. But it's not. It's a default profile, but it's not applied by default. It's still, you have to reference it or something.
Yeah, no. So there's now new profiles where it's like, if a profile name is like entity ID.default, then it will always, like, if you turn on a light, it will restore the light itself, stores the settings of what light's brightness it had when it was turned off, right? If you use like a remote or whatever.
Yeah.
If you use the Home Assistant turn on command, and you have a default light profile, it will now set the brightness in that command. So you specify the brightness, like turn on to this. But you can also do transition, I think. Actually, now I need to double check because I don't know about that one. But you can definitely do like other parts, the colors and stuff.
I actually have a select in my configuration from the start of Home Assistant with a couple of those things, but I've never used it because I don't know, actually.
This is really old. So it kind of was inspired by Philips Hue, Signify U. I don't know what they had in in the original V1 app. You had relax, concentrate.
That's what my input selects are called. I think I copied it from somewhere.
IKEA has that as well, I think. That's cool, but that's basically what it is. But
yeah,
I wondered, like, that is actually really useful. Why is it like a CSV file in my config folder? Why can I just, like, I have those lights that if you like turn them on, that there are like the previous brightness, which could have been like almost 1 because like last time I turned it off, like that was like almost off because of like automatic lighting. So I have on a lot of places like that types of detections that puts up the brightness again, just to fix that. But light profiles apparently can do that.
Yes.
But now I wonder, why isn't this just a setting on a light?
That's first the backstory is, why is this a text file? Is that because this has been around since the very beginning. Like Philips Hue was the first integrated devices in Home Assistant. That's literally why I built Home Assistant, because I got that hub and integrated that. And so that has been around, and it was before we even had a UI to configure anything, right? Remember, back in the days, there's only control and viewing the state was what we used our UI for. And so yeah, nobody really has ever put any effort in it. But I think what you're going towards, I mean, this is something that we've also talked about many times over the years, is entity options or device options, right? So for an entity, you should be able to say like this is the default brightness if I don't specify a brightness. For a media player, you should be saying you cannot go louder than like 20% because otherwise your receiver will blow up your speakers or something like this. There's a bunch of these like we should support that kind of things that we don't currently support. Um,
The speaker volume limitation is quite handy. I have in my Loveless view I've limited it, but sometimes accidentally I do it in the more info, and then it
No,
scares
but
the hell
Hardy.
it's something we should add and something we haven't added. So that's it's also a little difficult because then the light integration has to specify entity options, but then also the device integration that provides the actual light needs to specify some options maybe. And I mean, I honestly, now that Eric is working on the core, I don't want to put too much on his plate and make any promises, but this has been on the list of things to look at. So, yeah, who knows? I think one of the things that we do well in Home Assistant is that we provide very basic, small little tools that anyone can build themselves. But then that's kind of where we stop a lot of times instead of creating some tools on top of that. So, being able to limit an entity to certain attributes would be great, and we don't do that. Right, like a text-to-speech card to like test your text-to-speech in your browser or pick any media player to play it on. That makes sense, but we never did that. So I know. I think as Frank once gave feedback, it's like we stick too much to MVP, and that's here as well. I think.
Well, it's kind of the power as well, right? So it's not necessarily a bad thing. Like if you put a lot of effort in a thing that actually nobody wants to use, then you put a lot of effort in, right?
Yeah.
And I think like the MVPs is also helping Home Assistant, right? There's a lot of people jumping in based on MVPs and picking up work and making it even better.
Right,
So
but it's
yeah.
only an MVP.
Feedback, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's only it's not bad to ship an MVP, but it's bad to stop and then move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
I think that's where we can do better. But the problem is, of course, there's so much stuff. There's like every time we think of one thing, we have to like not do 5 other things or more.
True.
Yeah.
Choices. Too many of those. I just realized I forgot to update the topic that the builds are delayed.
Oh. Yeah, there were some issues with Docker Hub today. That's what we use to distribute our containers for Home Assistant OS, supervised and container. And that meant that our builds have been delayed.
All good now. So you can all safely upgrade.
Right. Normally it's 40 minutes after we announce, and now it was a couple of hours. Yeah.
Happens. The timing was worst ever.
Yeah. Hey, so we talk about security disclosures.
Yes, that has been a thing this month as well.
Right. It has been this month. Right. So, we got the Hacks project got like disclosed a security vulnerability for a directory traversal attack on an unauthenticated web view. And it means that there was an unauthenticated web view. This means that you don't need any authentication. And with a directory traversal attack, this web view was serving files, so people could download files from Home Assistant. And because of the directory traversal attack, they could download any file Home Assistant has access to. So this is not good, of course. And this was an issue that was found in Hacks initially, and then we started looking. And what happens is that a lot of custom integration authors, they will look at other custom integrations. What are they doing? And what has happened is that actually in Home Assistant we have like a function to serve files from a static path, and that will guard against like these kind of attacks. but that wasn't used. And so then people kind of started to copy from one another, and they say, oh, this is how this integration does it, this is how I'm going to do it, and start to spread. And so that's how, when we started looking, we found multiple custom components that we're doing were vulnerable for this. And so when we found out, we did two things. For people that have not read the blog post, the two things we did right away is that we built a filter inside Home Assistant, so we can actually detect when these kind of attacks are happening and stop them from even reaching the vulnerable code. That way your Home Assistant instance will remain secure. And the second step is that we did a huge messaging campaign. So we told everybody, update your Home Assistant so you get this filter, and update your custom components. We didn't name the custom components because we want to give the authors time to fix it, release their fix, and give people time to update. And so this is what we did. And so I don't think we've ever done so much messaging. So we did a forum blog post, of course. Sorry, we did a blog post. We posted it on our Discord. We did like an at everyone so that everybody got a notification on our Discord server. That's 60,000 people. Then we pushed it to all the linked servers to our Discord server, which another 70 servers got notified. Then the Android app started notifying people if they are running an insecure version of Home Assistant. The iOS app started to notify people. With Nabukasa, we've emailed every person that was subscribed within the last 30 days or is currently subscribed to notify them of the security incident. Did I miss anything that we did?
Yes, we did the supervisor rollout as well. That pushed something on your dashboard in the case it was.
Yeah, so the supervisor also started warning if you were using, and the problem that we had here is that using Home Assistant itself wasn't insecure, but using Home Assistant in combination with one of these custom integrations made you vulnerable. And that was very tricky for us because it doesn't mean, like, normally we just say, we're just going to block all these versions of Home Assistant of doing X, Y, or Z. But there's a lot of problems there because we don't have any power, right? You're running Home Assistant at home. So anything you do at home, it's up to you. And the second part is that, with Home Assistant Cloud for Nabukasa, we actually blocked remote access for insecure versions. But that was a way too wide blockage, right? Because we blocked also people that were not using custom components. But that's because we don't know. And so, yeah, I think, in the end, we after a week, we published like, these were the custom components, and this was the type of attack that was used and that you're protected against. And then people started looking, and then within a day, because people started looking at it, a second vulnerability was found. And this was a vulnerability that was, the way it was, it was kind of, because of like, we were so busy in the week before, we kind of had glanced at it and we didn't fully, maybe the impact was, we were not fully aware of the impact of it. And so a person told us like, no, actually, if you do it like this, and they crafted like a special string, then it was like, okay, well, shit. So that's why the day after we did our security disclosure, we did it on Friday, and then the Saturday morning, we got this email, and I was like, oh no. So we all got together again for the whole day.
We went in conference call for 12 hours with most of the Nabukasa crew. We've been in call for 12 hours the whole freaking day.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen you guys enough.
Yeah, no, I mean, it sucks. Because when these things happen, I mean, now, because it was the second one, we knew the stuff that we had to do. We had it all written out. And I think, in hindsight, we should have been better prepared. Like, we should have had, like, dry runs of these kind of things more. And we're going to work on some more tooling to see if we can get people to opt in to, like, an antivirus. Like, we will just remove custom integrations or something, or disable built-in integrations, right? It could also be built-in, of course. But yeah, that's stuff we got to build.
I think in general, like when we first published like the there's something wrong, right? The security bulletin, the first thing we did, like upgrade now after we patched up Home Assistant at least, and like a lot of people got angry about what's the vulnerability, what's going on here, right? And that's the point we didn't communicate. Like the vulnerability was not on our end. It had to be the combination and the things you installed. And we had something to protect you for it. But in the end, we were disclosing this like discreetly and responsibly with the people that created those custom components and reaching out to all those people and getting stuff fixed and getting patches up and stuff. That takes time as well. So in the end, like, I think we did a good job. We actually came around within a week. I think the general is 60 or 90 days or something for the security vulnerability disclosures.
Right.
And we did our freaking stinking best. Like we all had like the worst week ever, or the worst weeks actually in general, like all focused on this and getting you guys alerted and notified and making sure as many people as possible were protected.
I think it was handled very well. In my day job, I work with GDPR. I work with a lot of privacy-sensitive information, which needs to be guarded, and some shit like this happens there too. But I have never seen a corporate instance handle it so well like the Home Assistant did it. And I can speak because I'm not part of the Nabukasa, so. I think you deserve a big fat compliment for it.
Thank you.
That said, I'm gonna leave this little chat. I'm gonna skim through the issues if there needs to be some fixing done on the Z-Wave VS integration. Thank you for watching my hat for a couple of minutes. And see you next.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Good night. Bye.
So in the end, like, it was an awful week, right, for everybody. And if you haven't done it, like if you're now watching and thinking like, what security vulnerability is this guy talking about right now with his weird hat, upgrade your Home Assistant instance right now. Like
Right.
if that is like the question mark you have if you were watching this, then first go upgrade your Home Assistant and then find out what's going on.
Right. We'll wait.
We'll
be
wait.
here.
Yeah. Let me know if you're done,
Yeah.
and we can continue the stream.
Yeah. Actually, I realized the two messaging, we did more messaging than we just described. We also have a banner on our website right now, which will stay there for the next month. With the next release, we're going to drop it. But the same with the forums, right? At the top of the forums also says like...
in the Nabukasa site.
And the Nabukasa website too, yeah.
And pinned to Reddit and pinned to Facebook and the Facebook group and to Twitter and like every little freaking communication channel we used. I hope it didn't annoy too much. If it did, at least it reached you.
That's true.
Yeah. No, it was a first time for all of us, I think. And I think we learned a lot. And I think we will be better prepared for the next one.
What next one?
What are you talking about? I threw everything away. I don't need it anymore.
No, where there's software, there are errors, there are bugs, there are security vulnerabilities. And yeah, it will happen again.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it just happened to Apple, right? Like every iOS device needed to update as soon as possible for some 0 days last week or something.
Wait, what?
Does your iPhone still get updates, Frank?
No, it doesn't.
No.
They found some 0 days that were actively being exploited.
Oh,
oops.
Cool.
Yeah. So.
Well, it does still works really, really well. Like I got a home button. It's cute, right? So
that's good.
I was reporting a bug once with the iOS team. Like, if I press the home button, and they were like, "Home button? Yeah, I got a button. Don't you guys have a button here?" I'm like, I don't have a button. But apparently, that's not a thing anymore. I didn't know.
I have one on my iPad.
That's good.
Oh God. I'm happy this whole security thing. Like, now I'm not sure if it's over. It's still here. I'm sure still people are needing to upgrade. I hope they do.
Yeah.
But from my point of view, I'm happy that part is over. That was like, I don't know. How do you say that? Heavy? No.
Yeah. No, definitely.
It was.
Yeah, just all new and just all have to think about what options do we have, what's the best part, what can we do. It was a lot.
But we're also making some changes. We just announced it for custom integrations. So I think the biggest thing is custom integrations will have to start specifying version numbers. So because one of the issues we have is that integrations don't have version numbers because the built-in integrations are always tied to a Home Assistant release, so there never was a need for version numbers. And so when custom integrations, when we had to decide, okay, we were like discussing, can we even block certain custom integrations? Then we were like, we cannot, because we don't know if it's a modern version or not. And so that was one of the many things that we're fixing now. I just got a PR linked from Ludius to actually warn about that. It's going to be enforced in like a couple of months. I mean, if you're a custom integration author, just add like version. You can just make it a static version. You don't have to update. But if you ever find a security issue, we block them all, of course. So that's
yeah.
Yeah.
Are custom integrations going to follow the same date version approach like Home Assistant? Well, that's not a requirement. That's a question, by the way, that drops up. No, that's not a requirement. As far as I know, it has to be a recognizable version number by our computer system, by Home Assistant, which is datever, semver, PEP 440 something. I don't know. So a couple of those like different version schemes that it just can recognize and can compare against.
Yeah.
That's, I think, the only requirement, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
Good question, though, by the way.
Look, and here, and here's a link. If you can, you have to type it over from the screen. It's just easier to go to developers at homeassistant.io and click on blog.
I think you can just like click the link in the chat.
Oh yes, of course. Well, if you're
in YouTube.
That's true. That's true.
Good. Do we have any other topics? Are there any questions from the audience?
So what like while we wait for that, by the way. So what are we going to do this month? like it seems like the past months we've been doing like crazy big stuff. So I feel like we're pitching into a black hole right now or something. Like,
well, I hope we can kind of like the month of January was meant to be. Last year we ended the year on a really big note at the conference, like December 13th. But that was like so big that like everybody took a break, pretty much like, till I don't know when was the first Monday of the year, January 2nd or 3rd. Like we took like 2-3 weeks off, but then of course started the backlog of like all that stuff, and then this month, like January, was actually meant for polishing. Like we're just gonna make sure that like these experiences all this stuff that we put out as MVP is gonna be like MVP 2 or like better, right? Like this TTS text-to-speech form from Nabukasa Home Assistant Cloud is one of those things. But then like the security disclosure came, then ZWave.js came, and then
January was gone.
January is gone, and so I don't know. I mean, There's also a bunch of maintenance stuff that we just have to do, like move away from Docker Hub because they start rate limiting. So getting to GitHub container registry is going to be good. And
I did that this month for the community add-ons, actually. That's something I
right.
did not plan. Right.
So that's, that's work that we're gonna do this month. And GitHub has been giving us a lot of feature preview, like stuff they put us in, they activate for our repositories or organization. So Frank just tweeted about it, the new template issue. Like you actually get a form when you create a new issue, so that's gonna be really cool. I think, we're just gonna like tweak and polish these kind of things. And big stuff for this year. Like one of the things is chip. I want to get chip is a new standard that they're being built under the Zigbee umbrella, which has involvement of a lot of big companies, and they're building an open source reference implementation alongside with it. And I hope that we can kind of do the same kind of thing as we did for Z-Wave.js or Open Z-Wave, and that we create like a WebSocket wrapper or something for it, and that we can just integrate into Home Assistant and just stay up to date with it. Just because I think chip is going to be big. I think a lot of people or vendors will migrate to it, and so having amazing support in Home Assistant seems important. So that's one of the only big things that I know for this year that I definitely want us to like focus on. And we're just making stuff easier all the time and more powerful. Blueprints has to be extended, right? Like we want to make a better blueprint marketplace. The forum is really like a stopgap measure. But yeah, there's just so many things that we can work on.
The contributions at this point, that was one of the tasks for January, like getting that backlog like reduced. That's something we've been working on last week. It's actually, we made a bit of a dent, so that's kind of nice.
I think we went through like 300 contributions last week, not more or something.
Yeah.
So,
but that's all stuff for the next release already, because like that's the beta, like
right.
The beta already started as soon as we started making that dent. So
yeah.
Please, can you answer what program you use for streaming? We're streaming on StreamYard at this point.
Yes, and StreamYard has been acquired by Hopin. And Hopin is the platform we use for our conference. I'm a little bit sad because I don't want StreamYard to go away, right? So I hope that they are going to keep StreamYard as a separate service and not just integrate in Hopin and like screw it. But yeah, no, we really like this software. In fact, we like this software so much. We've been doing like our meetings in it sometimes as well, because it just works really well. Like you don't live stream it, you just sit in this studio, and we can actually do like different like setups, right? So if you want to, let's see, like we can have like this, so we get like more like a news show or something. Yeah.
For us, that's been working better than the average meeting software in general. So that's kind of like weird, actually. But we're really enjoying
that we use StreamYard instead of Hopin to do our keynotes during the conference.
Yes, the keynotes were done from here as well, indeed.
Yeah, and then streamed into Hopin.
Yeah.
And to YouTube. And
recorded.
And recorded, yes.
I haven't looked anymore at the recordings, by the way. Like,
if people are watching all the recordings, Frank has uploaded them all to YouTube.
I watched them all because I added them all, but I haven't watched them, if that makes sense.
You skimmed them.
Yes, but you're busy with that, and then you're like, you feel like you're watching on repeat, but actually you haven't seen it. If that makes any sense. It's like watching a movie like that's on the background, and then later you go sit and watch it, and then you feel like you're watching a rerun kind of thing, but still there are a lot of things you haven't seen, so that's a bit weird. I still have to go and sit and just watch a couple, because actually I think I should watch a couple still. Yep.
Yeah, I haven't watched them all yet. One day.
Yep. Yeah. And what else is cool? I today I shared a video with you guys. I today played with my Stream Deck. Somebody actually notified me of if you have a Stream Deck, like a button panel thing. Not sure if the cord is long enough. No, it isn't. Too bad. But if you have a Stream Deck that's a little button thingy with every button is in display, there's now a Home Assistant plugin for that thing, and it's actually really cool. You can just like put entities in that display and then push the button, and it will show the state actually on your desk.
And it's live updated, right? It uses the WebSocket
Yes.
direction.
Yes. So if I outside of it like change something that is on my Stream Deck, it will change live. It's really, really, really nice. I have now one button to like turn on my key light here, but I probably will add some more. Really cool.
Yeah, I didn't realize the Stream Deck was that open. Like you can just write JavaScript apps for it and just put any UI on it. Like,
yes, it's really cool. I use it for a lot of things, but this is a new use for me.
With Stream Deck, you can also attach a different layout of your Stream Deck depending on what program you have active, right?
Yes, it can switch between layout based on program, and you can create multiple folders, which I do. Like I have a folder with most used shortcuts on web, and a folder with most used programs. So if I start up the computer, I go to the programs folder and click, and then open a couple of websites, and it's just like in front of me. Instead of shortcuts or hitting a bunch of things or using Spotlight on the Mac, I just hit those buttons right in front of me.
it's like the touch bar.
Yes, it's like the touch bar, only this one is not like annoying, to be honest. No, I really like my Stream Deck. I must be honest, this is my third Stream Deck because the other two just died on me. So that's not as good, but in general.
Surface was really good, right?
Well,
yeah, you can.
The servers are good. They really sent me a new one, even out of warranty period. So that's they
cool.
they really like recognize the problem. So that's nice. But yeah, I can recommend it in general because of that. Like good service, and in general, it's like a good experience. And with a Home Assistant now on it, I am going to enjoy it even more.
That's
Really,
cool.
yeah.
Now I need one.
Like that touch bar stuff. Is that actually useful? You guys have a touch bar, right?
I have a touch bar by Mac, and
You have a touch bar too.
No, I have disabled it. So I have replaced it. Like you can say, don't do touch bar magic and just show my function keys.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that's what I have. But I still don't use it. So I'm really, really desperately waiting for like the M1 powered MacBook Pros, like the next generation. Just like I'm so ready to upgrade. I have a 2016 MacBook, which is 5 years old now. So, I mean, that is old. So, yeah.
I've actually now realized I've reassigned my backspace to be an escape key because I really don't like the escape key on the touch bar.
Yeah, they fixed that on the 16-inch. It has an escape key dedicated. But yeah, I never use touch bar. It's
No.
Yeah, I'd rather have just buttons. Back, give me buttons.
Yeah. Can you please talk about the OS and supervisor updates? That's right. There's a supervisor update coming, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Well, so
a
we
big
just,
one.
I think the previous supervisor update has been in the last month as well. The new, so Ludius has been doing a bunch of awesome interface tweaks. So he reorganized the cards so that they make sense or more sense. We had this one card with all these graphs in it of like how much CPU was used and these things. Those are now better attributed to core, supervisor, these kind of things. I think add-ons have that too now, or that's only in beta.
That's now in beta, so that's coming now.
Okay.
The configuration for add-ons will get like some sort of UI rendered. It's
Right.
not like fully like it is a start, and it's really nice to be able to configure an add-on just via clicking checkboxes and filling in fields instead of like doing a YAML over there, which always has been like, well, at least it's better than the JSON we had in all the beginning, right? But yeah, I think that is a nice addition. But the most big thing about like the upcoming supervisor and the OS updates will be that the whole handling of hardware in the supervisor is changed, and that's going to bring a lot of better compatibility with hardware and add-ons and Home Assistant itself, and that looks really good. That looks really good.
Yeah.
So, looking forward to that.
Yes, that's going to be really good.
What else?
This one. When running Home Assistant in Docker, do I need a separate Docker container for running ZWaveJS? Yes. Because ZWaveJS is a JavaScript application and Home Assistant is a Python application. So if you want to, the best way to do it is look for the ZWaveJS to MQTT Docker, which you don't have to enable the MQTT part. You can just enable the server part that Home Assistant needs. And it will also give you a nice control panel that is like has more features than the one currently in Home Assistant. And you can use them in parallel. So like you don't have to shut down anything. You can use Home Assistant. You can use that control panel, and it all talks to the same stick. So
yeah, well, it feels like an extra container is really, really a good thing, because like your whole Z-Wave network keeps running if you restart or reconnect Home Assistant. Like it just is there instantly after you restart Home Assistant. Your Z-Wave network is up in a blip because it's still up.
Yeah.
So it's actually a big advantage. Right.
All right, it's time to wrap up.
I think so. We're
Next week.
almost hitting the 2-hour marker.
That's pretty impressive again. We so much stuff. I can't believe we can fill it up again. So if you're tuning in for the first time, don't forget, if you're on YouTube, to hit the subscribe button. It's over. Oh, I'm not on the screen there, so something like this. It's a little bell icon.
I think it's on Bram's end there. There.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Bram,
there it
there you
is.
go. Yes.
There.
If you're watching on Facebook or Twitter, don't forget to follow our page or Twitter account. Definitely join us on Discord to hang out with the community, help people get helped, share ideas, join the forums, same idea, more asynchronous. And definitely if you're making cool stuff, definitely tweet it out, share it on the forums. We're going to pick up the community highlights a bit more in the upcoming weeks. So more news. I mean, that's going to be next week. We're going to have an intern. So that's going to be very interesting. This is the first Home Assistant intern. And thank you everybody for tuning in or watching the replay if you're watching this later. And we'll see you next month.
Have a good month. Make something good, something nice, and share it for the highlights.
Yes. Cool. So end it?
Yes. Bye-bye.
I'm looking for the fade out.
I just keep waiting.
Oh, fuck. There's like a confirm. Awkward.
You were doing